Alright, so I got a little Webbot update posted by Cliff High, the owner of the Webbot, on yesterday, Sunday. And he's been looking at some of the latest data from the newest Webbot report that will be coming out sometime in October, he says. Next report anticipated by mid-October, hopefully just before the powers that be start their next PMF, which is a planetary mind F. I've spoken about that in some other reports where he mentions that word. Note to silver tards. Over these coming weeks, do not be tempted by the recent small gains in silver to sell off only to suffer a big loss. And people had messaged him, what do you mean? Is silver going to get smashed? Is that what you're saying? I'm a little confused. So he says silver, over the coming weeks, gains are big. Real big, he says. Gains big. Well, he just says gains big in bold letters. Come on, guys, sharpen up there. That is called reading between the lines. So what I've gathered out of this is what, here's his word for word comment. Over these coming weeks, do not be tempted by small gains only to suffer the big loss. And what I take that to mean, and again, he said, come on, guys, sharpen up there. This is what called reading between the lines. Was his secondary comment to the first comment. What I understand this to mean, because again, his reports recently, the very last one, which was several months ago, spoke about all these things that we've been hearing about in the news. I've been doing little follow-ups to keep you all updated that, hey, that sounds like a hit, there's another hit, little precursor stuff. And he said they would throw everything at silver but the kitchen sink to keep the prices down. And to give you an idea, we have every last few weeks, the silver and gold COT report keeps showing massive short positions being taken out. And the silver price and gold price rose. And then the next week, more massive amounts of short positions opening up. And when they're doing that, they are getting slaughtered by the price rising. So, and this is according to September 14th, last week, silver COT report 9/14/2012, which is actually good for the prior week. Commercials crushed by quantitative easing 3, or infinity, added 11.8 million ounces net short prior to the FOMC meeting, Federal Reserve, where he came out and said, old Bernanke, QE to infinity, via mortgage-backed security purchases by the Fed. Because the mortgage-backed securities that these banks have on their balance sheet, they're claiming we have all these assets, hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars in assets. But the price that they've got those marked at is so far from reality, it will make your head spin. And they understand this. So they have to just say, well, how and where can we sell these at the current price we've got marked down? Not on planet Earth is the response. Well, then what's our second choice? The Federal Reserve. They'll buy them all up and give you what you claim they're worth, but they're not really worth that. That'll get them off your balance sheet onto the Fed's balance sheet, and as Lindsey Williams had said himself, you will essentially be paying the Federal Reserve for your mortgage. You will be paying that monthly note off to the Fed. You will be paying the Fed for your mortgage. That's what he said months and months and months and months ago, and this is actually it. This is exactly it. They're dumping those mortgage-backed securities, which is nothing more than a bunch of mortgages bundled into something called a security, and then sold off to investors, investment groups, who then realize these aren't securities, this is a bunch of trash, you deceived us, we want our money back, and are winning via lawsuits to get their money back. So you can't have Bank of America and Citigroup and JP Morgan and the rest of them go bankrupt just dealing with that. Nope, we've got to have a way out for our friends. And the Federal Reserve comes to the rescue again and announces QE3 basically via buying back mortgages. That's all essentially what they're doing. And it's open-ended. We'll do it as long as we need to do it until we feel that the labor market has recovered enough to where we're happy with. What are you talking about? We're at 8.0% unemployment according to your latest numbers. It was 8.3, 8.2, 8.1, back to 8.2. Now we're back down to 8.0. Ben, that should be, what are you talking about until we see better improvement in the labor market? What the hell are you talking about? It's coming from your same government statistics. That's not good enough for you? No, it's not. And if it was at 2%, it wouldn't be good enough. Why? Because they have to get rid of these mortgage-backed securities off the bank's balance sheet, onto the Federal Reserve balance sheet, which is essentially onto your balance sheet, except you will continue making payments on money the Federal Reserve created out of thin air to buy those mortgage-backed securities and then hold them. So they're creating money out of thin air to do that. Essentially, they're taking from the future, you and I and our kids, to do that. Then by God, I think I raise my hand and say we don't want to pay any monthly payments. If you're adding $5 trillion to your balance sheet, which is what this equals, and that's the number that they're giving us, I don't want to have to pay. We shouldn't pay. No, but you're going to pay, and it's going to go to the Federal Reserve. So back to Lindsey Williams, and by the way, these silver COT, whoever got these commercial shorts just got absolutely slaughtered by the price of gold and silver rising recently. Just destroyed. And yet they bought some more. Who has that kind of funding to take a massive beating like that and continue? Sir, may I have another massive beating, short position. Sir, may I have another massive beating, week after week after week. Who would do that? You think JP Morgan would do it? No. It's what Blythe Masters said. We have a client or clients that have a net short position on silver. We are basically their broker, so to speak. So they have the net short position through us, JP Morgan Chase. It's not that JP Morgan Chase has it. Our client is hedging the silver market. Who's your client? Well, we can't tell you. I already know what the answer is. It's the United States government. That's your client. Who could have unending pockets to deal with a beating after a beating after a beating and still come back for more beating in the precious metals market over and over and over again for like the last month and a half? The federal government. That's who. That's who the client is. So why would they do that? Because they want to make people think the price is going to get slaughtered. And even if the federal government gets slaughtered in the process financially by the short position, it is the federal government. They do have a printing press. And Ben Bernanke just announced quantitative easing to infinity. Therefore, they will take the beating to trick everyone into thinking, to expect the prices to fall, when in reality they still continue to rise. Back to the Webbot report. Let me switch pages here. Note to silvertards. Over these coming weeks, do not be tempted to sell by the recent small gains, only to suffer the big loss. So if you sell now, due to the recent small gains of, over 15%, which is pretty good gains, don't be suckered in and sell your silver, is what he's saying, and say, hey, I just made 15% of my money. I'm going to wait for the market to come down again and then get back in it. That's what he's saying right there. Because you're not going to get back in it according to what he thinks or where he thinks the price of precious metals are going. You'll make a little profit now, and you will ultimately experience a big loss because you will not be able to be a part of the big price increase on precious metals coming soon. You will have already sold off now to get your little baby gains now. Considering you're my subscriber, chances are you should already know better not to sell that silver and to keep stacking more over and over and over again. As I've said, if you want to try to play games like this and sell and buy and all that, that's fine, but don't ever sell all of it in case you make a mistake. At least you say, hey, at least I got half my silver stash here sitting pretty. I didn't call that one good, so I'm suffering from that, but at least I've got half my silver, and it's doing phenomenally well right now, etc. That's what I'm taking. Over the coming weeks, big gains coming is what he is saying. He's going to be releasing a Webbot report, which is what he's touching on in here. A new Webbot report coming out sometime mid-October. So that's all I got for you. Take care.